Hello and welcome to another episode of Game and Drink. I'm your host, Califloidian, and I'll be your guide through the wonderful world of craft beer and gaming. With 2016 behind us, we can finally dive headfirst into the new year. We have many new games to look forward to, and breweries have already updated their yearly release schedules. But before we press on, I wanted to take a moment to reflect on one of my favorite aspects of the year's close. Winter has some of my favorite seasonal beer releases, and is partly the reason I love it so much. With Christmas finally come and gone, it establishes how far into winter we've come, but I'm not ready to see it go so soon. One thing that makes winter so great is the snow, which is something we don't get here in Southern California. So before it's over, we decided to take a trip to South Park, and along for the sleigh ride is Stone Brewing's Xocoveza. South Park is currently in its 20th season of airing on Comedy Central, so I think it's safe to say that the show is pretty popular. And with something this big, it would be hard to imagine that there weren't any games made using its settings, because there certainly were. But the majority of these came out during the 5th generation console era and met with relatively low review scores. It wouldn't be until 2014 when Obsidian Entertainment partnered with South Park Digital Studios to release The Stick of Truth that fans finally got a game truly deserving of the South Park name. In short, The Stick of Truth is a turn-based RPG in which you explore the town of South Park and embark on an adventure with the series' main cast of characters. The Stick of Truth's greatest strength comes from the involvement of series creators Matt Stone and Trey Parker. With their help, the game essentially plays out like an episode of the TV show. If you want it, you could even consider it somewhat of a mini-movie. And that's all you really need to know about the game, and with its sequel set to release early this year, I thought there was no better time to talk about it than now. With that, let's move on to the beer. There are many beers I look forward to each winter, but there's one in particular that has been competing for fridge space since its release in 2014. Stone Brewing's Xocoveza is a milk stout that sits at 8.1% ABV and 50 IBUs. It's brewed with nutmeg, cinnamon, chocolate and vanilla, as well as coffee and peppers. This year it was made available in 6 packs of 12-ounce bottles. Upon pouring, you're met with an inky blackness of the beer that no light seems to escape. Atop this black concoction sits a thick brown head that eventually settles into a densely packed line of foam. You're immediately met with the aroma of nutmeg and cinnamon even before you bring the glass to your nose, and as you take in the beer you begin to notice the chocolate and vanilla. Beyond that is the coffee and very subtle hint of peppers. The nutmeg and cinnamon are again at the forefront as you take your first sip, but as the liquid spreads across your tongue you get the sweetness of the vanilla and chocolate. At first it's reminiscent of a mug of hot chocolate, but as it goes down you pick up on the bitter and roastiness of the coffee, followed by a bit of the spiciness from the peppers. For an 8.1% beer, the alcohol is extremely well hidden. Coupled with the full body and moderate carbonation, each sip is a unique experience rather than a single flavor. This particular pairing starts off strong as you get that familiar South Park humor when you begin a new game. As you sit back and enjoy the opening cinematic, having a laugh, you sip your beer and delight in the sweetness of it. The pairing only gets stronger from there as the game's simple mechanics and low difficulty curve allow for many small victories early on. That sweetness from the vanilla and chocolate make for a great complement in this regard, but as the sweetness fades into the bitterness of the coffee, we begin to peel back the layers of the jokes. Underneath, they aren't all light-hearted and are often vulgar and make fun of concepts and groups of people as a whole. This transition from sweet to bitter and hilarity to sudden realization make for another great complement between the game and the beer. The spiciness of the peppers also go great with some of the sick burns Cartman pulls off all throughout the game. Taking a step back, we can look at the visuals to find South Park covered in a sparkling white snow. As well, the characters are often dressed in vibrant and colorful clothing. This is a stark contrast to the blackness of the beer, highlighting its elegance and the silliness of the game. The gameplay can be a bit repetitive, though we can put up with it since it's South Park, and this is the opposite of the beer simply because it's one that you will want to sip slowly and methodically. Overall, this is countered by the fact that these two things change dynamically the more you play or the more you sip. With each sip of Xocoveza, the flavor seems to evolve into something new. Every interaction in the Stick of Truth feels organic, even though you could be running around doing side quests in any order you feel like. I know I've mentioned this before, but I generally don't pair high ABV beers with slower paced games. We're making an exception here only because the beer is in 12-ounce bottles this time around. Generally, a 22-ounce bottle of this high of an ABV beer would be good throughout an entire gaming session, but with more opportunities to drink, you may burn through it within an hour. At least with a 12-ounce bottle, you can hold off on grabbing another if you finish it too soon. I can openly recommend the Stick of Truth to anybody who is a fan of South Park, even if you aren't an avid gamer. Its simple mechanics and easy difficulty curve make it extremely approachable. I even think that this is a game you could play with a friend or loved one, as it's just like an episode of the show. The game being across all platforms make it even more approachable, especially since it's priced at around $30. As for Xocoveza, it's one of the few big beers that I would freely recommend to nearly everybody. It has such bold and powerful flavors that complement each other very nicely rather than any one being overpowering. The only downside is that it is a bit on the expensive side, as it can cost upwards of $17 for a 6-pack. It's definitely worth the price, as it's only available once a year, so it isn't sitting there all year beckoning your wallet. And that's going to bring our video to an end. Like or dislike the video depending on how you felt, let us know the details down in the comments. If you like what we're doing here, go ahead and subscribe so you can keep up to date with all of our videos, and if you already are, I'll see you around.